Amazing. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this afternoon's session all about Nutty Tiles, the vocab learning game that students truly love. Apologies for a slightly delayed start, due to technical issues, which I'm sure we're all very familiar with by now. As a way of introduction, my name is Jess. I'm a marketing manager here at This Is School. I'll be your host today alongside my colleague Catherine, who's one of our new business managers. Catherine will be taking the lead really shortly to show you the amazing things you can do with Nutty Tiles, benefits of gamification, and we'll also be sharing some real world feedback from our teaching community towards the end of the session as well. I'm going to run through a really quick amount of housekeeping. It's probably all very familiar by now, but just so you know, as attendees, your microphones and cameras are off, which means you can go about your business in the background if you so wish. We won't be able to hear anything. If you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A sections that you'll be able to see on your screen. We'll get to questions at the end. We've got time set aside for Q&A if there is anything, but feel free to pop those in as we go as well. I'm here to help while Catherine's showing us around, and otherwise we'll get to those at the end. So without further ado, because obviously we promised a quick fire session, and a quick fire session it will be, I'll hand over to Catherine.
Thank you, Jess. Great. So this is what we are going to be covering today. An introduction to us. This is School, for those who might not already be familiar with the site. We're going to look at how Nutty Tiles works, including points and progress. We're going to talk about how you can design and set your own custom lists for your students. We're going to listen to hear some best practice use and real life feedback from students and teachers about how they use Nutty Tiles, and of course we will have time for Q&A at the end. But before all that, let's start at the very beginning. What are we? What is This Is School? So we were launched back in 2011 as thisislanguage.com. Then the platform relaunched itself as This Is School in 2023. Now, this was done as a reflection of our belief that the authentic content and resources we have pioneered in languages can also be applied to a wide range of subjects. So we now offer resources for French, Spanish, German and Italian, Mandarin, and now also geography and sciences. It's all very exciting. As a platform and as an organisation, we're focusing on driving progress, elevating your resources, and inspiring a global perspective across all of our subjects. This Is School is very much an all-in-one platform, meaning you'll be able to find everything you need all in one place, including videos, interactive exercises, student monitoring and progress trackers, and also textbook guides and printable worksheets if you want to take a lesson or two offline while still tapping into our fantastic range of resources. This Is School is cloud-based, meaning there's no additional installation needed. Every subscription comes with personalised discoveries and success plans. You get continued support from real life humans throughout the time you're with us, and you can always access tips, hints and help to make sure that you and your students are maximising your time with This Is School. We also offer a 14-day free trial, so you can start any time that suits you. So do make sure to request that at the end of this session. Now, before I take you onto the platform, we're going to watch a quick trailer for Nutty Tiles so that you can get a feel for what it's all about. You'll find yourself singing that tune constantly, because I know I do. It's very addictive.
See us both bopping along in the background. It's a very
Absolutely.
familiar tune for us here at school.
Right, so now I'm going to jump in so you can see how it looks on the platform. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Brilliant. So in short, from that quick video that we just saw, you can see how fun and engaging it is. But Nutty Tiles is a real-time multiplayer vocab game. It's only available on This Is School. There are 50 levels to complete. Right, there we go, music again. We can mute that. There are 50 levels in total. Each level introduces at least 20 new words. So this is in Spanish. So you can see that they start off with very simple vocabulary, and then they progress as you go through the levels. And you can always see these beforehand so that you know what the students are learning. But by the time your students have completed all 50 levels, they will have mastered 1,000 keywords, and they won't even realize that they're doing it because it's all done by recall, and they'll be learning whilst they're playing. Students can access Nutty Tiles independently, which will allow them to proactively build and reinforce their understanding of key pieces of vocabulary whenever and wherever they want. We heard actually last summer a fantastic story from a parent. They said that their child has spent the whole road trip, they'd driven to France, and they spent the whole road trip on their device in the back of the car. And it turned out that the whole way there, they've been learning French on Nutty Tiles. And they were just determined to keep leveling up. So that's the kind of addiction level that you have with your students will have with the site. And we also heard this week from a recent school that's just signed up that Nutty Tiles has overtaken Fortnite as the game of the moment in school's break time, which is fantastic to hear. And of course goes to show the power of gamification and learning. If we can get them off of Fortnite, then all the better. But all students have to do to access Nutty Tiles is to go to Nutty Games, choose the global game, as we see here, and they will be matched with players from around the world. So there are currently 45 players online on level 1 in Spanish. So depending on what kind of level they're playing, you'll see how many players are online for that level. If there is no one online at that time, then our handy competition bots will step in to test them and see how far they can get. So on the screen here, we can see how many others are playing, and then you can go straight into the game and start playing it. Now, I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not even going to embarrass myself with attempting to do that. But what I have got to show you is how you can use custom Nutty Tiles lists to really take vocab teaching and testing to the next level. So to do this, you just go straight into Nutty Tiles, but now here you click into the custom lists. You can then see all of the different lists that you have created. They're all shared with all of your colleagues, so you can create a list and then all of your colleagues can share them as well. So it's a nice part of collaboration as well. When assigning, you simply click assign, sign the list, select the class. You can select the speed, and this is how long they give them to type in the correct answer. And then the usual options of visibility to students and the due date. Now, a number of words on custom Nutty Tiles list should be between 15 and 25, as this is the optimum range for learning words in Nutty Tiles. And it's worth noting that the search function when adding words is sensitive to spelling and accents. So the input word does need to match exactly with the word in the dictionary. It's just something to bear in mind. Custom Nutty Tiles lists are a creative way to add an extra layer of vocab learning and training to your classwork or homework. They're a great addition to holiday-themed assignments, for example, if you're looking at calendar events such as Halloween, and also for setting exercises your students will actively want to complete during time off, such as the upcoming half term. Now, you can also use Nutty Tiles in our points target. Now, points targets give students the freedom to choose which exercises they'd like to work on to continue to build their points, or peanuts as we call them. This is a really useful feature if you don't have a particular exercise in mind For example, during class finishes or holidays and half terms, as mentioned. So if you know students are still proactively logging in and learning, this is a great independent use of their time. Now, you can select down here the parameters that you want them to play in. So if you're doing just Nutty Tiles, you would untick all of these areas. I do find that when teachers set this, it's either just Nutty Tiles or everything but Nutty Tiles, because otherwise they will just play Nutty Tiles because it is addictive. But basically that's what you do. And then you would select the points at the target at the top here and how many you want them to do. And then students will be able to log in and see on their individual account their rewards for their hard work. And then they can trade these points in for their avatars. They can change their avatars. Oh, I'm a teacher, so I can't I can't change my avatar. But they can pimp out their avatars. We also, if you have competitive students, have our leaderboard section. So we have our global class and student leaderboards, which refresh each Friday evening. And the top 3 classes. Sorry, my screen froze. And the top three classes will get certificates sent out to them every week. So we do like to shout about it and see how everybody's getting on. If you have a bit of a competitive edge in your classroom that you want to maximise for the benefit of language skills, the points target and accessing the top spot on the leaderboard can be a great motivator. And we do hear from schools all the time that their students are very competitive and they like to see how they're getting on. So you can view them by class, or you can also view by students to see how your students are getting along. And you can do this globally, so they're competing against students all over the world. Or you can look at just your school or just your classes, depending on how competitive you want them to be. Now, gamification is an interesting terminology that's often used in EdTech. And I'm sure you will have heard across any number of platforms you might use. And I think it's worth highlighting not only the power in our actual game that is Nutty Tiles, but the general energy and approach to This Is School to add genuine engagement and a bit of delight into your students' language learning time. This includes, of course, the energy of our 120 seconds in our grammar explainer videos, and also the interactive nature of our exercises. Students are encouraged to retake and revise sections that they haven't scored full marks on and can't always move forward without completing sections or activities in full. This in itself is gamification and sparks renewed energy and interest from students. Yes, they may get a bit frustrated when they get stuck or they feel like they just want to move on, but our reactive system means that they are always revising and learning and essentially leveling up on their language skills. This not only boosts confidence and shows them the power of revision and retesting themselves to build resilience, it can also help to save you time on marking as it's done automatically. And progress tracking, you not only see overall scores, but also attempts made on certain activities by your students, enabling you to provide intervention and support as needed, but also easily identify when you might be able to graduate to higher level topics, videos and exercises. So it really is important for students to progress on the site, not for their own perspective, but also for yourselves. You can have the confidence in This Is School that when you're setting work for your students, you know that they are learning. They're not just going through the motions and trying to get the right answer. They're being tested and retested at every stage. And there is full pedagogy behind all of our exercises to make sure the students are learning and progressing, so that you know that when you set homework, they are going to come to the next class and they can recall everything they've learned, which is a really important part of their revision. So I'm going to hand back over to Jess to give us some insights from our community.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I think it's really interesting, the point about gamification as well, because something that I know we've talked about recently is we've actually had a school report back that even their students who are no longer taking languages still want access to This Is School, because they still want to play the games and they still want to do the activities and the exercises, because that gamification is just so inherent that it's fun and it's it means that they are actively engaged in their learning and wanting to drive it forward for themselves, which I think, especially with the breadth of the curriculum that that people are trying to cover, and the time that you have in your classrooms, can be so powerful just to know that students are actually there and actively engaged and wanting to do more and better through this one platform. So before we close off and round up today's webinar, I just wanted to share some comments and testimonials from our teaching community. So hopefully you can see my screen. After all, we can sit here and we can talk positive about this school, we can share our stories and our opinions, but ultimately what you want to hear is what other teachers are doing with the platform and how they find it. So these are some extracts. Some of them do mention Nutty Tiles, but I've also chosen some wider ones because obviously the platform is so much more than that. Here you can see teachers commenting on the reliability. Again, we've got comments here about students wanting to use the platform to push themselves. And of course, I've included a couple of pieces there around covering use of the platform to cover full curriculums, and also the return on investment that you see at the end of the academic year from investing in this school, and what that can then bring through to your students and for your teachers and your departments also. If you're interested in hearing more from teachers on how they're using this at school, and you think it would be useful to understand, we do have a case studies page on our website, thisisschool.com/case-studies, or you can find it under the More tab, which includes both written and some video explanations, ideas, inspiration from our community across the world of how they're using this school in their classrooms. I always really recommend going and looking at those, because again, like I say, we can sit here and we obviously have a slightly biased opinion on how positive this school is, but you can really see from the energy and the enthusiasm that teachers have for us, the impact it's had both on their lives, their departments, like I say, and of course their students. So we've got a little bit of time for Q&A. If you do have any questions, please pop them in the chat or the Q&A function on Zoho webinar. We had a couple come in pre-webinar, so we'll cover those really quickly as well, just to make sure they're rounded off for the recording. So of course, I'm going to throw this one directly to Catherine. It's one of our most common questions is, how much does it cost? Oh, I think you're on mute, Catherine.
There we go. Not that many times, have we? So This Is School is a per student subscription model. For languages, it's packaged up that you get access to French, Spanish, German and Italian all together. There's no difference in cost for getting 1 or 4 languages, but it does mean that the more students you have, the lower the per head cost. So it's more cost effective to get all your students on, and most of our schools will go from Key Stage 3 all the way through to Key Stage 5. But if you just wanted to have access for different year groups, then we can send you tailored quotes depending on your student numbers. So if you would like information about a quote for your school, simply email us at info@thisisschool.com with your requirements, and we'll get that across to you.
I think it's fair to say that is one of the most common questions we get. So very used to answering it, and very used to, again, of course, having the conversations with everyone around their requirements in their school and what that might look like. We did have another question on gamification, which is around, will my students not just get entirely distracted by having access to Nutty Tiles? And obviously we're not here to encourage distractions during lesson time, which is why we kind of touched on, and we often recommend Nutty Tiles as a great addition, starter, finisher to classroom time, for that additional burst of energy. And also, like Catherine kind of covered, that competitive edge can really make a difference. I actually emailed the certificates to this week's leaderboard winners earlier this week, and the teacher actually explained that her students were really disappointed that they hadn't heard from me the week before because they hadn't reached the top 3. So suddenly they were trying to earn their peanuts, across all of the platform, all of the activities they could, including Nutty Tiles. So it's really nice to kind of have that, that energy can be kind of brought in however you see fit, obviously, in your classroom. But it, like I say, it can be a great starter, finisher, and homework and holiday periods as well. We often hear of teachers reporting students kind of finding Nutty tiles by themselves and discovering that as one of the first activities that they can do, which is really nice. And I think it also helps that students feel a bit of control and influence over the platform as well. They've got an area that's kind of for them, so to speak, even though, as we mentioned at the beginning, ultimately they're still learning a language. They just don't always realise it. And of course, you can include it in the points targets, as we discussed, so you can bring it way into that learning and into those assignments as well to make sure that it's contributing to overall progress tracking and, you know, grade books, etc. So that's everything from us today. I will stop singing the praises of Nutty tiles, but I highly recommend, if you've joined us today and you're curious, please do go to thisisschool.com/trial, use the code WEB to request your free 14-day trial, just so we know where you've come from. And it means we can dive into a bit more detail around Nutty tiles, and it also means we know which other areas of the platform you might be interested in exploring a bit more about, because there is so much more that we've not been able to cover today. We'll be sending a recording out, so if you've not been able to attend live, hopefully you've been able to watch this back. If you have any questions, please email us, info@thisisschool.com. And otherwise, thank you again so much for joining us. Thank you to Catherine for that tour, and I hope to see everybody on This Is School really soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.